It's not 5 o'clock, and they don't care. Welcome to Wine to 5. Entertainment, education, and everyday drinking for everyday people. Your hosts are Valerie Caruso and Stephanie Davis, two wine educators who don't need a clock to know when to pour that next glass.
All right, Steph. So we've got in front of us some New York wines, and what we thought would be fun to do would be to talk a little bit about the regions. And we have a sampling of 3 regions here.
Yes, we have a nice selection of wines that came from Play Nice PR. And we have 3 AVAs represented, plus a wine that is from New York State. But the 3 AVAs that we have are Finger Lakes, Hudson River Valley, and also the
North Fork of Long Island.
Yeah. North Fork of Long Island. So, and we only have one from the Hudson River region, and so we're going to start there.
Yes, let's start with there. In fact, I was just there last week, which is so crazy. So, of course, by the time this airs, I was just there last month, which is so crazy, and didn't even realize there were so many wineries around, but we didn't have time to go winery hunting. But you want to talk about this first wine?
Yeah. So this first one is from White Cliff Vineyards, and the grape variety is called Vidal Blanc, otherwise known as Vidal.
Yeah, normally you'll see that one, you'll see it in Canadian ice wines, you'll see it in Enniskillen, you'll see it from the Niagara. Sometimes people say Niagara, it's Niagara.
Yeah.
Yeah, I say Niagara, but I've heard Niagara, and I'm like, what?
Oh, huh.
So, yeah, you'll see it come from there as well. And we talked a little bit about this variety with Jordan.
Yeah, with Jordan Cowie.
Yeah, with Jordan Cowie. So, yeah, so this is what this is 100% Vidal Blanc?
100%.
Okay.
And it's from the 2016 vintage, so it's young. It's also under $20.
Nice.
And when I was sniffing around, I got some nice grapefruit, little key lime pie, even some Starburst lemon candy. What do you think, Val?
It's totally, when you said Starburst or Skittles, and I do use a lot of candy references because I think it's something a lot of people in most countries can relate to, but yeah, it is. It's like candy.
Yeah.
And it's got, like the acidity, like I got the puckering on the back of the palate, the tang from the acidity.
But there's nice layers, and your mouth is really salivating right now. Overall, I would say beautiful, high quality. I would drink this. I would gift this. This is very nice.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, that was a taste of our New Year New York wine episode. And since we started our tasting in the Hudson Valley region, we should probably get right into the history of New York winemaking. What do you say, Steph?
Yeah, definitely, because some of this stuff impresses us, especially that there's wineries in Brooklyn, Queens, and Manhattan. Can you believe that?
That's crazy.
I know, it's so crazy. I mean, you don't think that that's like wine country, you know?
Right.
And so, plus the other thing that we thought was pretty cool as far as recent history was in January of 2013, New York wines were served at the presidential inaugural luncheon for the first time. And just to give a shout out to those wineries, one of the wines served was Tierstry Riesling from the Finger Lakes. And then the other one was Vidal Merlot from Long Island. Also, we must say that we were surprised to find that New York wine grape growing actually began not in the more rural areas of the Finger Lakes or the Hamptons or Long Island, but in Manhattan. How little do we know, obviously, about the New York wines? This is why this is an important episode. And if we want to go way back, we have to thank the Dutch during the 1600s for these first attempts at viticulture in New York State.
I mean, that's crazy because I was in Manhattan a couple weeks ago and never did it once occur to me, because I didn't read all this before I went. Shame on me, that the Dutch, probably some of John's relatives, they started growing Vitis vinifera vines in Manhattan. That was the first attempt.
I know. It's crazy.
And yet they didn't work. It didn't work out. But of course, we do have to kind of go further out to find the oldest operating winery in America, the early 1800s. And these were the French Huguenots. And it was, I want to say 1830s. It was late 1830s is when they actually started planting all these vineyards. I think it was like as early as 1810 that Brotherhood Winery can chase back their roots in the Hudson Valley. So in this next section, we're actually going to head back east, as Steph mentioned earlier, to Long Island.
Nice one, Val. Let's move on to the next one from a different region, North Fork.
Yeah, so the North Fork of Long Island, this one had me wondering because I was looking at some of these wines, but apparently there are 4 different forks of Long Island, and so the North Fork is where you have most of your wine regions, but they do grow grapes in all the forks, and the Hamptons is actually one of them as well. So most of us have heard of that, but it's not a place I've been. So here I am wondering, how are they growing grapes like Cabernet Sauvignon and Petit Verdot when all these other New York wine regions are known for more of their cold weather varieties like the Rieslings or like the Vidal, which is a very cold, hardy grape. So what I did realize was there are so many moderating effects from the nearby water, from the Atlantic Ocean, from the Bay, from the Long Island Sound nearby, that they can, with their long growing season, grow things like Petit Verdot and Cabernet Sauvignon and some of the things we're going to find in our glass in these next wines. But the first wine is actually a white wine, and you're going to talk about that one, right?
Yeah.
Paumanok Chenin Blanc.
Well, Paumanok, we got lucky enough to have 2 Paumanok wines in front of us. This one is a Chenin Blanc, but they do make quite an array of different wines. And when we were looking at the video, it's like they did take this minimalist approach, is what they were talking about. And this one, strikingly different than the Vidal Blanc, because this is a Chenin Blanc, and I'm getting a lot more flowery notes. I don't know, maybe a little bit of a spiciness too, but not the intensity of acid and not the intensity of fruit.
Which is interesting, because when we think about the great French wines of the Chenins of the Loire Valley, for example, a lot of those wines they do make with even, again, a touch of residual sugar, but the acidity is so powerful. It makes them some of the greatest food wines.
This is very light on your palate.
This is a delicate version of a Chenin, which I think highlights the versatility of this grape.
Yeah.
Which is awesome because of, again, where it grows in upstate New York there, where it gets pretty stinking cold. So.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what they have to work around on the state, right? Is
right.
The intense climate there.
This is for one of those people that can't handle a lot of acid or
Right.
a lot of, like a Sauvignon Blanc, for example, something that's got a lot of green in it as well. A lot of those pyrazine type things. This doesn't have that. It's quite elegant, and this is actually, I think, a wine that doesn't need food.
No, I think you could sip this, enjoy it, maybe as an aperitif. And then also, I was getting this super subtle note of an incense. I was getting that going, like a calming effect. I don't know. I can see that. It's kind of a neat wine.
I can see that. Next time you come down, I have an incense collection, so we can roll out the yoga mats and see if we get some Om Chenin Namaste going.
Okay, let's go to the next wine.
Yes, the next one. We've been doing this for quite a few hours, so it's going to get crazy up in here. This is actually, speaking of crazy, we're going to move into some reds from the North Fork of the Long Island as well. And the Lens Old Vines Merlot. This is a very interesting wine. It's actually 90% Merlot.
It's actually mind-blowing. I'm smelling it
the
right now.
The nose on this thing. I mean, and to be fair, we use the Coravin because we've got 12 bottles of wine open this weekend, and we're trying not to drink them all. But we did, and there is almost an aerating effect that comes out when you push that argon gas into the bottle and it comes spurting out the Coravin. There was almost an aerating effect as I splattered the wine. So, it probably had a little bit of aeration. So I was really surprised at the nose of this wine.
What if you had to do this blind?
Oh my God.
Wow.
I can't even imagine doing this blind because it's, first of all, New World for sure. You know, really ripe red berries, jammy berries on the nose. It is 90% Merlot.
And did we tell everybody it was 2010?
It is a 2010. Yes, it is a 2010. There is 5% Malbec in here, 5% Petit Verdot, Cabernet Franc blend. And Cabernet Franc is something they do really well in New York too, by the way. And we'll get into some of those later. But there's enough glass staining on here, which is really crazy to lead me to maybe a Merlot. I'm not getting too inky tears. The tears aren't too inky. Yeah, I speak the English.
Well, don't worry. I think I was just going to try and drink out of my microphone. So, I'm trying to get my hands right. But, I enjoy lip smacking, obviously, because I'm doing that, but smooth. Yeah.
Sorry.
Don't inhale your wine over there, Val.
Oh, yeah, good stuff. That happens. Hey,
Well, I'm going to blame it on the Barbies behind us. But I think that the nose on this can keep you with this wine for a very long time. Kind of a meditative thing. I love it.
This is sick. And what I'm really digging about it is, again, I don't want to overuse the word complex, but when we say that, we're meaning, on the nose, we get those really ripe, those jammy kind of candies, but then I got this mouthful of like dried flower petals.
Yeah.
Like, a hibiscus. Like things like if you've ever carried around hibiscus petals in your purse, and I've done it for tea, this is the aroma that I'm getting.
Yeah.
And then you get, when you swallow, the finish is a lot longer than you would think, but it's like cocoa powder. And
it's soft,
coffee beans.
kind of, though. I like the cocoa powder and tea, like tea.
Yeah.
Black tea.
So that's part of the bottle age. That's part of the tertiary. So you've still got some primary aromas, the fruit aromas from the grape. You still got some secondary aromas because this one did spend a little time in wood. The tea and the coffee and the chocolate, that's from time in the bottle. But yeah, you were talking about 2 years in French oak, a little bit of barrel fermentation. And the winemaker has it in French oak for, looks like 23 months, 75% neutral oak, 25% new oak. They bottled it in 2012, Steph. So, and here it is 2017. And guess what? You can still buy this wine. And we're not like trying to sell it, but, we just kind of want to let you know it is out there. Because if you're going, why are they drinking stuff we can't have? Well, you can have it. And you can get it from their website. If you're a Lens Winery subscriber, this is about a this is a $65 bottle.
Yeah, well, it drinks like that. It drinks like, a $100 bottle. I really love it. And I want to thank Lens for sharing these wines with us, and also thank the New York Wine and Grape Foundation.
And Play Nice PR.
Yeah, Play Nice PR too. You guys, thank you for sending this to us. We are in Denver and feeling very spoiled right now with these outstanding wines. So let's go to the next Lens offering here.
This is, they're calling it a Cabernet Sauvignon. Again, it's a 2010, again, from the North Fork of Long Island. And it's 85% Cabernet Sauvignon, 8% Merlot, for a little softening there, 7% Petit Verdot, and a Cabernet Franc blend. And again, this is one of those wines that's only available to the Lens subscribers, but you can get it. You can get it for $50. And what a conversation wine. Because...
yeah. Well, my first impression is smoked meat, maybe some really like spicy, that barbecue sauce that you just kind of feel like, I know I have a big dollop of barbecue sauce on here, but I think I'm going to have another one. I just like the meatiness of it.
The smoked meat. And that's funny because smoked meat's usually what I get from Rhone. Rhone
right.
wines a lot, which I love. I mean, that's usually one of my go-to regions. But I'm going to tell you what, I don't know. They made 500 cases of this, and I'm not sure how they still have some.
Whoa. Because the word isn't out yet.
This is what I love about Cabernet Sauvignon. I mean, yeah, we're sitting here getting ready to like spit and swirl and everything, but nobody wants to let it out of their mouths.
You know what else? It was like right before Val said, this is Cabernet Sauvignon. I just felt like
Cabernet Sauvignon just came over and said hello to me. It was like, you taste it and it's like, hello, friend. Because when you know and love Cabernet, and you know who I'm talking to, the people who love Cabernet, this is an outstanding wine.
Yeah.
I definitely like the lens.
That is stunning.
Now, this next wine, we're going to go back to Paumanok. And whoa, what a difference in the glass. Like, it's totally like purpley, different color, different animal. And this is their assemblage from Paumanok in 2014. What can you tell us about that, Val?
Well, this is crazy because this one here is a screw top. Okay. They bottled about 489 cases, again, just fewer than 500 cases of this stuff. And 90% of them are on a screw cap. So that surprised me, first of all. And it is a blend of about half Merlot. This is the first time I'm getting my nose in this glass, too. 37% Cabernet Sauvignon, 10% Cabernet Franc, and 3% Petit Verdot. There we are with that Petit Verdot again. And they did use some new French oak, about 20% when they made this.
I'm getting a lot of candied notes up front. Some purple, blue fruits, some pie, kind of
like conserved fruits, like
jammy. But it's almost like, remember when we did those jams?
No, the Primo?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has some of like a background with like almost a Serrano, a green peppery Serrano note or something behind all of the fruit.
Yeah, I'm getting a little bit. That's what's funny. This is a 2014, so I'm still getting some of that herbal quality that you get from Cabernet Sauvignon, and there's a high percentage of Cabernet Sauvignons you're going to get, again, some of those pyrazines, that bell pepper kind of thing. But this is more, like a spicy pepper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely a nice food pairing wine, too. That's what I love about the differences of wines, especially when you have them all lined up. I think a lot of people miss out when they don't gather their friends around or go to tastings. You don't get to see these differences that become striking, even though they might be small differences.
Right. And to be fair, we've only got the 2 regions lined up right now, or the three regions. So that we got there are 2, the Hudson Valley and then the North Fork of Long Island. And the 2 whites, of course, were totally different because they were from 2 different places. But the 3 reds made up with classic Bordeaux varieties that we've got in our glass, all stunningly different, all around the same price point. But what they've done with the Merlot and the Cab, whether it's the type of wood they've aged it in, the length of time, or even the areas that they've come from, it's just incredible that they can be so different. So for anybody that wants to say, I don't like red wine, you haven't tasted them all. And if you can get your hands on New York wines, well, it's a new year. Get some New York into your cellar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shall we go to the next region?
We should.
All right.
So before we go on to the next region, let's talk numbers. Here's some pearls that we found interesting about New York wines. Things for you to remember. It ranks 3rd in U.S. wine production, yet only 25% of all the grapes harvested make their way into wine. This is because 73% of their harvest is made into grape juice. The other 2% are just sold as table grapes. There are 6 major wine regions and 10 AVAs, or American Viticultural Areas. Some of the 10 are sub-AVAs. So here we go. Here's what's to remember. Long Island AVA with 2 sub-AVAs, the Hamptons and North Fork of Long Island, the Hudson River AVA, Champlain Valley of New York, which is the newest AVA established in September of 2016, the Finger Lakes AVA, and its 2 sub-AVAs, Seneca Lake and Cayuga Lake, the Niagara Escarpment AVA, and Lake Erie AVA. And within there's over 420 wineries. So this is why we're saying this is by the numbers, folks, because that was a lot of numbers to remember. And I've got one more to throw at you. More than 35 different grape varieties grow there. So Val, I think it's time to move on to the Finger Lakes tasting.
Yes, it is.
All right. So speaking of Finger Lakes, we learned recently at the Society of Wine Educators Conference, and were you in there?
I wasn't at that
Lorraine
seminar.
is awesome. Lorraine is a fellow board member, so shout out, but she is awesome, and she and I believe it was Bill gave this talk on Finger Lakes wine, and I think most of us do know that they say Riesling is king,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where we're going to start.
Yes.
Right? So we're talking cool climate, lakes that have been carved out by glaciers, steep hillsides that capture the sunshine and allow the grapes to ripen, which brings us to some Riesling in our glasses. I think we have two of them here.
We have a Riesling, and then we have a Chardonnay Riesling blend.
What?
Yep. So there we've got 2 whites, and then we've got 3 reds.
We do. Cabernet Franc is the red that the Finger Lakes is really doing well right now. And then, of course, there's a Cabernet Sauvignon at the end. So let's get into those Rieslings.
Yeah, let's get into this Riesling. This is a 2016 Dr. Constantine Frank dry Riesling. And I went to visit there in 2007. Oh, watch out for the hairdryer.
Whoa!
Really? Look at you go in that glass. Oh my God, if you could see Val's expressions right now.
You know, I think because this is I think we have 6 wines left, so we've already been through 6 wines today. 7 if you count lunch. And I'm still amazed at the acidity in this glass. It is like peachy. It is citrus.
Limey. This is a great, this is the geeky sommelier Riesling that people appreciate.
Yeah, I have a question. How would you put this in Finger Lakes? If because I'm trying to place it in Germany, but I'm not getting that slate, that wet stone thing that I often, that chalkiness or whatever, that wet stone that I often associate with places like Mosel, peaches and slate and things like that. But I still get that stone fruit. So I think there's this juiciness on the palate that before you swallow it, the acidity makes your mouth water.
Actually, it gives you that tickle in the back of your throat. Like you were kind of making that face. But I was just, kind of like the very best olive oil that makes you kind of cough.
Yeah.
It has kind of that sensation that it's like, it has a textural thing going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But there is almost like this thing wants to be in your mouth and just be juicy. And I think it's
like
not as
prickling
lean
in your nose even.
But even with that prickle, would you say it's maybe not as lean as something from the Mosel Valley or the Clare Valley?
Definitely you're right with the more juicy. It's like flowing juice.
Right. And I say Clare Valley being, I know that's Australia, just so you know.
Yeah.
But it's just, I remember the first time I had it, I had no idea that Clare Valley Riesling could be so lean.
Yeah.
This one isn't that. This is not, so maybe that's how I would be like, whoa, acid, what? But I'm not getting the green pyrazines or anything that I get in a Sauvignon Blanc or that cat pea or any of that. But I'm getting those juicy stone fruits, those really ripe peaches and apricots and citrus. And then it just wants to hang out in your mouth and make you salivate. And I think that's where I would put this at Finger Lakes versus a German.
It has a overall sensorial experience because I just kind of feel like it does I'm like making little funny movements with my fingers over my nose, but it's kind of like, it's just kind of a lot of action.
And isn't this producer pretty much king of that region as far as Riesling goes in this country?
And this year they were celebrating 55 years since the winery opened, and really a leader in the Finger Lakes and for all of New York, and making sure that vinifera vines have a place there instead of all the hybrids or Labrusca.
Right.
So,
yeah. No, this is the bomb, and it's something I don't get my hands on a lot. So it was really a treat to try this.
His sparkling wines are amazing, too.
Yeah. This is certainly a treat. $16 bottle, screw cap. Come on.
I know. And it's in the beautiful, tall, lean green.
Like a flute style.
Yeah.
Like
bottle.
Yeah. So we still have another Finger Lakes white here. Chardonnay, I call the floozy grape because it can grow everywhere. It can grow in a warm climate, And it can demonstrate those really ripe mango fruit characteristics. And then it can grow in a really cool climate like a Chablis or like a New York. And then it demonstrates more of that citrus and that, that sharpness that we really, really love. So what's going on in this glass here that we have?
Okay, and the producer of this one is Casa Larga. And the Chardonnay, it actually says Chard-Riesling. And it's 42% Chardonnay and 58% Riesling. And this vintage is also 2016. What are your first impressions there, Val?
The nose is super pretty to me. It's very floral, very perfumey, aromatic, which is not, exactly what Chardonnay is known for, but Riesling is an aromatic. But to get these like white flower honeysuckle things, I was not expecting that. I've been like, is there Gewürztraminer in the glass?
Yeah.
But then you take a sip. It's got such a round mouthfeel. Okay, so the Chardonnay is giving it that fatness, that roundness. I fail to see where Riesling is hanging out because there's hardly any acidity in here.
Yeah.
Unless it's the perfume. I can't figure out what's going on with the Riesling in this glass. What about you?
The Riesling seems to be expressing itself in the nose aromatically. The Chardonnay seems to dominate on the palate. It has a nice feel to it because of that fatness, like Val was saying. A cool wine because this isn't something you normally get to taste.
Right.
And again, I think this would be something that you could just, sip on and no food required, that kind of a thing.
This is a crowd pleaser. I mean, this is one of those things that I think a lot of people would enjoy across the board. So if you were pouring this at your house and you'd be like, just Chard Riesling. First of all, it's interesting because these are two varieties that you never see in the bottle. And the second thing is that it is one of those wines where it's not going to really put anybody off. I mean, and there's no oak here either. It looks like it was done in stainless. I just want to peek at the notes.
I would definitely make sure that this is a wine that you want to drink very young.
Oh, and you know what else I see here? The harvest dates. Here's something that's really cool and geeky. The Chardonnay was harvested at the end of September last year. The Riesling wasn't harvested until 2 separate dates in mid to mid-late October, 14th and 19th October. So almost, as Riesling hangs on the vine later, it becomes more concentrated, and so that's what I'm wondering what the weather was doing in that area, because maybe we're heading toward almost a late harvest October. That's kind of late to be harvesting. It's cold there then.
Yeah, maybe they just needed more time. I don't know.
So, yeah, this is a pretty wine, though, I have to say.
It is pretty, and even in the winemaker's notes, it does say to consume young so that it's crisp and fresh. So,
yeah,
I could see how if this one gets away from you and you leave it in your wine rack for too long, you'll lose what makes it so pretty.
Yeah. I think so. I think it's good for about a year or two, and then, you want to have it drunk. And this one is in a screw cap as well?
This one, no. This one has a cork.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Yeah. It is a beautiful presentation bottle, too. So, shall we go into the red?
Yes.
Oh, my goodness. So, the next one we have here is a Lakewood Cabernet Franc, and this is also from the Finger Lakes. And Cabernet Franc is the red grape that they do there very well. I would be curious, Steph, to see what your first impression is.
First impression are some red fruits, but I also really thought that I got some kind of cocoa notes. A meatiness, but just very subtle. I don't know if it was just like a prosciutto kind of a thing or what, but cool, very cool. I haven't tasted it yet. I just was kind of giving it the nose over.
What's really surprising is the structure on this and the level of tannins that I'm getting on the Cabernet Franc. And the persistence. Long, dark, red, like cranberries.
Right, the red fruits.
Right.
Has a chewiness to it that I kind of like. Almost like you're eating it.
Yes. I was just thinking I was chewing on it before I spit it. And hopefully you guys can't hear me spitting into this microphone. But this is definitely primary fruit.
What's the year on this one?
2016.
2016. This would be something I would love to have a case of in my cellar because this is the kind of wine that is light enough to have with a lot of different things. Even in the summertime, it's really nice.
This is a nice burger wine. Like, I'm
Yeah.
sitting here and it's getting close to dinner time, and I can see a nice cheeseburger with a piece of cheddar on top of this, you know. But
Totally.
I really like about this is there is this meaty thing going on also, and I don't want to keep stuffing meat into these wines, but there is an earthy quality for a wine that's so young.
Yeah, that's what's kind of cool about
You
it.
know, I expected this wine to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to be great when I grow up, but no, it's drinking pretty nice now.
Yeah.
But the tannins are still sufficient. I think they're going to be around for a couple more
Oh
years.
yeah, like I feel it persisting right in my gums, in between my two front teeth. It's kind of like I'm
All I
still
want
here.
For Christmas is my two front teeth.
Okay, before I go on and on, we do have another Cabernet Franc we should talk about.
We do. It is the 2015, so I'm going to go back one more year to Damiani, and this is another Finger Lakes wine. And here's what I like about this one: it's unfined.
Ooh, that's like our favorite.
That's our favorite thing. We like when they don't bother taking out the, sediment and all that good stuff in the end. Now, there's no evidence of it in the glass here. Well, yeah, actually is. There is a little bit of sediment on the side of the glass. And what's interesting also about this one, it's got almost a violet.
Yeah, this really has almost like a sophisticated men's cologne smell. I don't know why. That's kind of
No,
weird.
you know what it is? It's that cedar,
The cedar.
sandalwood,
Yeah.
something going on there like that.
Like, if more men smelled like this, that might be a problem.
Oh my God. Gentlemen, go out and get yourself a bottle of the 2015 Damiano Cabernet Franc, and you know what to do.
That's right.
No, this is neutral oak. So, but why am I getting that cedar, sandalwood, plummy thing? What's going on here?
That's what makes wine mysterious.
The tannins are a lot softer. The last wine had the tannins were kind of chalky, in a good way, very soft, chalky. They're a little more silky on that finish. It's just like that is a beautiful wine.
It's changing a lot, too. I was just kind of getting some, is it Indian candy or something? But it's the candied smoked salmon. That's kind of a weird thing, but I just kind of
What the hell do you snack on?
candied. Come on, people, give me a chance here. I think it's candied smoked salmon. Anyway,
Well,
that
here's
stuff is really
what's
good.
interesting, because I had to go look up to see what kind of wood they used. And
Yeah.
so I was surprised to see that they've only used neutral oak barrels. Right under that, they have the tasting notes and food pairing.
What does it say?
Pair this with pork milanese with arugula and red onion salad, cherry cheesecake, or even grilled salmon with caramelized shallots and red sauce. So can you have a red wine with fish? Yes, you can, and not just Pinot Noir. You can have this, or you can candy your salmon, as Steph
You know what?
apparently
When
does.
you see that, you're going to think of this show, and you're going to be like, I'll be damned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
That's a really nice wine. Very nice.
and that is about $22 bottle.
Right.
Yeah, for the 2015. That's what we were able to find on that.
I
So-
think that's a good value. Very high quality.
So they're making Cabernet Sauvignon in the Finger Lakes as well.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to go to
Let's
next.
taste it.
The Chateau Lafayette Renault. And Winery and Inn.
Winery and Inn. Can we stay there?
Apparently you can.
Look at this dark baby.
Yeah, this is a 2013. But
What? Eyeballs popping out of my head.
totally different nose on this. Black fruit.
And it has like some tar notes or some kind of
Black berries. Black
black
plums.
currants, some dried fruits, raisins, or I don't know, blackened. I don't want to keep going after this meaty thing. Why is that? Are we hungry? Is that the problem here? Visually, it's leading into this flavor profile of dark fruits, smoky, charred, like charred eggplant is making me think of it. This is really kind of badass.
It is. And I'm getting that tar, that burnt meat thing that you're talking about here. But yeah, this and the cocoa powder kind of thing going on too. This, I would have a hard time saying this is not a California red or even a Napa
Yeah.
cab. I'm not going to say it's
See
overly
some
extracted.
similarities,
It's
yeah.
not got an overly...
You know what, though? I am not sure in a blind tasting if I would identify this as Cabernet Sauvignon.
only because of the tannins.
Tannins. Color, maybe.
I'm not going to say an aggressive use of wood, but a really, like, winemakers, like, not messing around use of wood.
Generosity.
It's generous, but it's not overdone.
Aged in new French and Hungarian oak barrels in addition to used French, Hungarian, and American oak for 24 months.
Bam. So other than it's not as extracted.
Smoky smooth finish. Yes, it is smoky.
Yeah. So I would have actually, because New York Cabernet is never on my wino radar,
Yeah.
I would have actually put this in California,
Mhm.
and I would have said it was like on a blind tasting, maybe not Napa, but I would have said maybe, somewhere up maybe north.
You know what makes it definitely not Napa? The alcohol is only 12.5.
Ah, yeah.
That's a huge difference.
You know what? And that's totally something I forgot about too, because I didn't even notice that it's not drinking very hot.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe not a North Coast or something. I don't know. This is good point. Cool climate, lower alcohol stuff.
Yeah.
See, and this is why we have to keep doing this. I think wine knowledge falls out of my brain faster than I could stuff it back in.
But that's what makes it cool, but also difficult to identify. Luckily, in blind tastings, you don't usually get tripped up with things like this, but just to be aware and also to seek out wines that you've never had before so that you have a benchmark and something to compare it to. When you're describing a wine, you can also say, oh, that's kind of like the way Cabernet is from the Finger Lakes.
Yeah.
Bingo.
This is beautiful, and I don't know if it's typical because I want to say this is one of the very few that I've ever had. And it's like when you're at the Society of Wine Educators Conference and you're tasting, 50, 60 wines a day, you think I remember any of them? No. So, yeah, that's a good point on the low alcohol. I really like that. It's nicely balanced.
Yeah. Really, that's what's cool about it. Bam.
Bam is right. We often say that no one knows absolutely everything about wine, but there are so many ways to learn about it.
Yeah, we certainly learned a lot about New York wines through tasting and reading. So thank you again to Play Nice PR for sending us this ridiculously awesome selection of wines.
And you know how else one can learn? You got to go there, right, Steph?
Oh, yeah. I always say that. I mean, I think that's why we travel to learn about these special wine areas. And back in 2010, I designed a girls' trip to the Finger Lakes wine region just for my pharmacy school buddies. Shout out, go Grizz. I highly recommend making a trip out there because that was 7 years ago that I made that trip, and so much has changed and there's been so much growth. So definitely you'll probably get twice as much out of it as I did. And my personal highlights were the tastings at Herman J. Weimer Vineyard, Dr. Constantine Frank, the Red Tail Ridge Winery, and Ravines Wine Cellars. And we have links to all of these in the show notes for you guys. And I also wanted to say that the sommelier community on guildsom.com was a huge help for giving me recommendations to restaurants and wineries and stuff. So thank you to Guildsom. And I also have to tell you that the Finger Lakes produces really high quality sparkling wines. And we didn't taste any in this episode, but I wouldn't lie to you guys about bubbly. And I also really loved the dry rosés that were from Pinot Noir, and Val and I didn't taste any for this episode, but I made a lot of highlights and circles and stars on my tasting notes back in 2010. So that's something else to look out for. But, besides the wine, there's a lot of live music kind of like everywhere. So that makes it a really fun place to visit. But most of all, everything's just chill, totally laid back. And you cannot miss, if you go out to the Finger Lakes, the like totally holistic, peaceful nature experience at Watkins Glen National Park. Like seriously, like a freaking amazing waterfalls. I mean, this is a destination for people to go hiking and stuff. And so, I mean, I know Val, you and John would love it.
Well, we're going to be out there. So, I mean, speaking of learning, it just so happens on our Wino radar, we're going because our 2018 Society Wine Educators Conference is going to be there in August.
That's right.
And you know, there are going to be tours. They always do tours. They always do like a pre-conference or post-conference event. And I'm not sure which ones they're going to have or what have you. But in Rochester, it's a sniff and a swirl and a sip and spitting distance from the Finger Lakes region. So again, tours, immersion. So we like to go early, maybe do some hiking and stuff like that before conference kicks off and do some touring. And that's my favorite way to learn. So we're looking forward to being there. The conference location will be at the Woodcliff Hotel and Spa in Rochester. And of course, that's August 15th through 17th. Registration is going to open in just a few months in May, in about 5 months. So mark your calendar because we're giving you plenty of reasons to go. Plus you get to see us and be a tourist, be a wine student, be a nature lover. We're all those things. And you know what, Steph? I have to add something because when I was, it's New Year. New York wines. And of course, with the new year, I like to throw stuff out. I like to fill up my dumpsters and fill up my recycle bins. And I was throwing out a bunch of old wine notes. But then I came across my Finger Lakes wine tasting notes from the conference.
Yeah.
And you know, what does it say? I had a sparkling rosé from Frank's Winery.
Yeah, you did.
It was, Meunier and Pinot Noir. And there were some crazy wines in there that we didn't even talk about in this episode. Because, you know, we went through 11 bottles. Or 10 bottles. So, you know, we couldn't get to them all. The Gewürztraminers, there were Lembergers, you know, they have Saperavi, a Georgian vinifera variety. So we had some crazy wines. And these are the kind of things you get to taste at Society Wine Educators. You know, naturally, I didn't remember them all, but I have notes here. And now I can look back and go, oh yeah, there's the Damiani that we talked about in the show. And I do remember tasting that one. So, you know, you can put those pieces together and it's really just kind of the best way to bring some information back and go, oh yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Then you go, been there, done that. You know, you feel it, you smell it, you see it, you know, it's, you know, the vines and the lakes and the climate, you know, all that stuff. It just sticks with you and so much more impactful.
I think because I did so much of that in Italy, it's why I kind of favor those regions because I spent time doing that and learning the culture, you know, and even James Kluwer, and you guys remember him from a couple episodes, you know, he said, if you're going to do the Master of Wine program, you need to get out into the vineyards. If you haven't been to Bordeaux, which I haven't, you need to get there. If you haven't been to Burgundy, which I haven't, I know, you need to get there. And so you need to get there and immerse yourself in these regions if you're serious about taking your tasting skills and knowledge to the next level, which many of us are, and many of us just want to drink the stuff.
That's right.
So what about shout outs, Steph?
Oh, well, we have to give some love to Play Nice PR and especially to Marielle. And we also want to thank the New York Wine and Grape Foundation, specifically Jennifer. This episode wouldn't have been so nicely put together if it wasn't for Marielle and Jennifer helping us. And also we want to give a shout out to the Curtis Hotel. That is where we got to do our tasting of all of these wines back in December. So shout out there. And then also we have to thank our patrons who support us on our crowdfunding platform. This is a listener supported show. So we just want to thank all of our listeners that are out there becoming patrons. And this is 2018. So thank you guys for 2017's support. To our tenacious tasters, Jeff from We Like Drinking, Lynn from Savor the Harvest, Sebastian of Sassy Italy Tours, our buddy Jen in Maryland, and David and Lisa in Illinois, who I saw have thrown an amazing tasting that they were posting on the Society of Wine Educators Facebook page. Wow. Yeah. So nice job, David and Lisa.
And we can't forget our It's Not 5 o'clock and We Don't Care listeners, one, because we just love that attitude. Meg in South Dakota, Clay in Arizona. In California, we have John, Andrew, and Azwani. Chantal is in Ontario, Canada. Mary Lou's in Pennsylvania. Kathy's in Georgia. In Colorado, we have Chris, Janet, and Diane. And then in Illinois, we have Steve and Renee. Kathy's in Tennessee. Ashley's in North Carolina. And Sean is in Ohio. And we did reach out to Sean, and he sent us a lovely note back. He's our newest patron. And he just, he said thanks. He says he loves the podcast. He has found it recently and has been listening to current episodes and going back for the topics he's most interested in. And we encourage all of you guys to do that. Find what you're interested in and listen to those. He says, I'm just a guy who likes wine and likes to support good free content that isn't free to produce. We look forward to hearing the next episodes. Thanks, Sean. And Sean, we appreciate that too, because this does take a lot of time and effort, and we love that you appreciate that. We love that you all appreciate that. We love our Tastemaker listeners also. There's David in Scotland, Carol in Kentucky, Karen in California, and we're so glad you guys are with us to kick off the new year. You want to learn how to be a patron? Go to our Patreon page for details, www.patreon.com/wine25podcast. And of course, you can also learn how to be entered into our monthly drawing for exclusive content and swag.
And we are here for you every week, even in 2018. And between episodes, you can find us on the social spaces at Wine25. And we encourage you to join our private Facebook group. If you haven't been there yet, it's called Wine25 Community. There's lots going on there, which is fun. And you can connect with Miss Val on Twitter at WineGalUnboxed and as Vino with Val on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest. And you can connect with me online as The Wine Heroine. So until next week, everybody. Cheers!
Thank you for listening to the Wine to Five podcast. Be sure to check us out at Facebook/WineTWO5 and tune in next week for more fun and useful sip tips.